Before you start sewing, you should gather together some basic sewing tools and learn a little bit about them. These will be used for hand sewing, but they're also ones that you could use if you were going to do machine sewing. We're going to start out with a pair of sharp scissors. These should be ones that you use only for sewing. If you use them on paper, they will get dull and they're not going to cut your fabric the way that you want it to be, nice and clean. You're going to need some sewing pins and something to keep them in so that they don't spill all over everywhere. The most common kind of pin cushion is a tomato, and it's got this little strawberry attached. If the pins come in a little box, just remove one of the pieces of tape on the side, and then that way the other one can be used like a hinge so you don't lose the top. When you put the pins in, don't push them all the way in. If they stick out a little bit, it makes it easier for you to grab them when you need one. By the way, this little strawberry that's here, it has emery in it. The gritty stuff like on an emery board, this can be used to sharpen the point of a pin or a needle. Next, we have some hand sewing needles. Try to use one that has a big eye whenever possible. These are easier to thread. And remember to always place your needle into your project or a small piece of fabric when you put it down. That way you're less likely to lose it, and if you do drop your needle or pin, hunt around for it. No one wants to get stuck in their foot with a pin or a needle. Not you, not your family, not your pet. You're going to need some thread. Most of the time, the thread we want to try to match it to what we're sewing. If you use a different color thread, it's going to show up more, which means that if you make mistakes, they're really going to show up. Then there's the tape measure. These are usually 60 inches long and they're flexible. A tape measure is really great if you have to measure around something. At other times, you could use a ruler. Then we have one of the most important sewing tools, the seam ripper. You should become good friends with it because you will use it often. The little plastic cap is removed and then placed on the ripper to be used as a handle. Always put the cap back on before you put it away so you don't poke yourself on the sharp point. This kit also contains a box of buttons and a box of safety pins. There's a needle threader and a thimble. If you can learn how to use a thimble, it can save your finger when you're doing a lot of hand sewing. I'm not very good at it yet. My mom always used a thimble when she did hand sewing. I'm practicing so that I can get better, but I use a different kind of thimble. This one is made of leather. You will also need something to mark with. These aren't included in this sewing kit. The things I use are either a chalk pencil, tailor's chalk, or a regular pencil. But if you use a pencil, only use it lightly and never on the right side of your fabric. It's very hard to remove. A couple of other things that are nice to have but not essential are a seam gauge. It has a little slidey bit on it to help you measure small things like seam allowances and then how much to turn up a hem or turn something under. A small pair of scissors is good for clipping threads. Not for cutting out, but good for clipping threads. And then the last little bit is what I call my wooden iron. It's just half of a clippy clothespin that's been taken apart. You can use the slanted edge to press the edges of something with an iron. So you press up like this, and it's much safer than using an electric iron if you're going to do something really tiny. Finally, you're going to need something to put all of your tools in. This kit came with a little bag, and so they'll all fit in there. But if you're putting together your own kit, you're going to need something like a big plastic zip bag, or you could use a pencil box, or you could use a zipper bag. Just make sure it's big enough that will hold all of your tools. When your tools are all together, you'll save time. Now that you know a little bit about your sewing tools, you're ready to get started on your project.